Hi everyone, I'm Oliver from Blendtuts.com, and in this tutorial I'm gonna show you how to create this post-it with the tack and everything. So for this I'm going to show you some basics for the modeling and some quick material creation for the final rendering. So let's get to it. Let's start by modeling the tack. I would usually go for a cylinder and just adjust a little the shape, but in this case, in this particular case, I want to show you a little different approach to modeling, which is going to be by using a few modifiers. So this time, I actually won't delete the cube as I always do. I'm going to the tab for entering the edit mode and just select all the vertices and press Alt-M to merge them in the center, because we are going to start from a vertex, from a single vertex. So now what I need to do is to go to the front view and just extrude this with E, move it into the x-axis to something like this. Okay, and basically what I'm gonna do is to draw the profile of the tack. Okay, so something like this. Now extrude it on the z-axis. Extrude again, E to extrude. Okay, something like this. This would be the shape of the tack. And now scale on X, move on X. Press N to show this panel here and make sure the X is 0, because we want this to then rotate around the axis. Okay, so we need it to be at 0. These two guys should be at 0. Okay, now I'm going to just adjust these guys a little bit. Something like this. Okay. And now I'm going to define it even a little more. So here, press W, subdivide, and I want to give here a little curve, something like that. And here I select these two guys, press W, subdivide, and here, as it's a bigger curve, I want 2 divisions. So here in subdivide, number of cuts, I press 2, and now select these 2 little kids here and move them like this. Okay, so this would be the basic shape of our tack. Now, what I need to do is to make this rotate around the center, creating the shape. Okay, so for that, I'm gonna use a modifier. So let's go here. I'm actually press N to delete this, to hide that. So let's go here to the modifiers, and I will just apply a screw modifier. We have some little problem here, but I don't care too much. I can just go here to calc order or flip to try to solve it. All right, that solved it. Here we have this black stuff, and probably here also, yeah, because the center vertices are not being merged. Okay, that is something that we need to solve later. All right, this vertex here is being duplicated a lot of times here to being rotated. All right, basically what this does, if we go to the if we press Z to go to the wireframe mode, you can also go from here. You can see that it took the profile we drawn and it rotated around the center, the origin point of the shape, and it created a new mesh, all right, by rotating it. Here we can define the rotation we want, which in this case 360 degrees is the right measure. And now we have a lot of divisions. All right, this is the steps. So as you can see, we can increase or decrease the steps to have more divisions or less. In this case, I think 8 is more than enough, because then we're going to apply a subdivision modifier. Okay, so I think this is okay. In this case, I think I'm going to apply this. And now let's go back to the edit mode to keep modeling. So I select everything, and first I have this little problem here. Okay, as you can see, if I select, the vertices there are being duplicated. Okay, I have a lot of vertices there, but they are not merged. So I select all the vertices with A, I press W and remove doubles. And as you can see, 14 vertices have been removed. And also at the bottom, now you can see that we only have a single vertex. Okay, there you have it. Okay, this looks better. Now, the next thing I want to do is to apply a subdivision surface to see how it looks. Just 2 subdivisions. and we see it's really smooth, and I don't want it to be so smooth. So the first thing I need to do is to define a little more some edges here so they will be harder. So first, this polygon here is very height. So I go here with Control R, okay, and I select this edge, and with the scroll wheel I increase the amount of subdivisions here. I press click, left click, and I have 2 subdivisions there, which already made this a little straighter. Right now, with Control R, I go back here, click, and I slide it right there. I do the same right here, and this will define a little more the smoothing it has in that areas. Okay, as you can see, it's now much more defined. Now we need to do the same here in this edge and here in this edge. So in these edges, actually what I'm going to do is to select the edge loop with Alt and right click in the edge loop. You can select every edge loop doing that. Alt and right click. And now what I want to do is to press Ctrl V and drag to bevel it. As you can see, that is the bevel. There we go. And right here, I want to select this, and as I want the same bevel, instead of beveling again, I can press Shift R, and it will be beveled exactly as we made up here. The Shift R is just for repeating the same operation, all right, the last operation we did. So as you can see, we already have more or less the shape of our tack. But I'm not really completely happy with it. I want to tweak it a little more, and well, it would be, you know, a little hard to select this and just make this part at the top smaller than this part at the bottom, okay, to make like a tape. So what I can do is to just go to the modifiers again and apply a simple deform. I want to put this one before the subsurface, right? The subsurface should be, in this case at least, always at the bottom, because it's the last modifier that I want to be applied in the object. I want to deform it before the subsurface is applied. So in this case, I have a twist here. As you can see, the faces, well, let me just disable the subsurface so you can see better the result. So as you can see, I can twist it, okay, which is pretty nice. But if we go to the edit mode, the object keeps being exactly the same as the original we have, which is pretty nice to give strange shapes to some models, while it's still easier to model because we have everything aligned, right? So that is nice. But instead of twist, what I want in this case is to do a taper. And this is kind of what I want, but in this case is too much. Okay, so at 0, it would be like the original shape, but if we decrease it slightly, you can see how at the top if it is smaller than at the bottom. But now I want this to be taller, so I can just go ahead and apply another simple deform, put it just before the subsurface, and this one will be to stretch it. So this is too much, of course. I want it to be stretched a little, all right? This is taller, but it also made this weird stuff to maintain the volume. So what I want to do is to probably here tweak this stuff, but instead I'm going to show you that we can go back to the previous deformer and adjust this until we get exactly what we want. Okay, so now if we activate the subsurface, you can see that I get something slightly different than the original mesh. Right? So the thing here is that, as you can see, now we want to go ahead and modify the model. But in this case, the model is now slightly different than the mesh that we are seeing. So in this case, what I want to do is to go here and apply these deformers. So now they have become the original mesh. So as you can see, you can apply these deformers and apply them. So they become editable in the edit mode, all right, which is exactly what we want. Now here, as you can see, here we have some triangles, and I want everything to be quads here. So what I can do is to just select these two guys, and as you can see, we have 4 vertices, which is exactly what we want. So I press X and select dissolve. All right, and this will get us a quad. Be careful, because dissolve, what really does is to convert every selection of faces, every face that we selected, into a single n-gon. As you can see, now here we have an n-gon. All right, but what we want is to just, if we have, you know, 2 triangles, it will create a quad, of course. But if there are more sides, it will create an n-gon. So we need to be careful with that. And what I want to do is to just now select these vertices, press J to join them, and same here. So now I have here 4 quads, right? And I will be back there in a moment. But first, I want to do exactly the same down here. So press X, dissolve, X, dissolve. With Shift R, we can already dissolve, okay? Because it repeats the last action. Okay, so now, if I go ahead and show this, okay, by pressing here, you can play with the surface from the edit mode, all right? And as you can see, this line here is not completely circular, which even if we don't notice really in this model, it's affecting the shape, the circular shape we can see here when the subsurface modifier is applied. So what we can do is to just select these 4 faces and press I and inset. So now the weird deformation is happening in the center, which is already planar, so no one will notice, but this is already a circle again. We will do the same right here. So press I to inset and drag to do that stuff. So now we will have the body of our tack really made with quads and smooth and with hard edges and completely finished. All right, so we have the body of our tack. Now what I need is to create the tip, the metallic tip of the tack. So let's go for the top view with 7 in the numpad, and let's create a cylinder. There we go. Now this cylinder, I want it to be 8 vertices, exactly. All right, basically by default it's 32, but I just have the default switch to 8 in this case because I created another one before. So I just go to the edit mode, press S, Shift Z to scale in the X and Y axis, and I make something like this. Yeah, this would be enough. Now I'm going to the front view, press Z to go to the wireframe to see what I'm doing, and I press S, Z to scale in the Z axis. So something like that. And now I select the bottom face and move it down. Right, something like this would be probably enough. So now I want to model here the tip. Before I model the tip, I want to add a couple of subdivisions here with Control R again, because otherwise we will have here a really long polygon, and it's better if they are a little even. So what I want to do here, I press the dot in the numpad. It will just move the camera to focus on the current selection. So I select this face, press dot, and actually I'm going to the face from the top that, as you can see, is an n-gon and deleted faces, because I'm not going to see that face anymore, so I don't care too much. And now here what I do is to create quads here, because I have another n-gon, but this one will represent the tip of the metallic part. So press set to see the solid mode and select these 2 guys, press J to join them, and now between these two I want to create a line, but as should be a subdivision here, so we have 2 different ways of doing this. I can select these 2 guys, press W, subdivide, and now just join this. But it's actually probably simpler to go ahead, press K, and use the knife. So click here, press enter, and there we go. right? The knife tool, really useful. Now I can select this tip here, move it down, and these little guys, to make these quads to be more defined, just move them a little up so it looks like some kind of pencil. So now if I apply here a subdivision surface, I see what I have. And this is not exactly what I want. So I will scale this down with Shift Z in the X and Y axis. Even more, something like that. Okay. And here, to make this taller, I need to go ahead to the face mode, select these 4 faces, and just press I to inset, and inset them very close to the bottom. Let's actually select this loop. Yeah, something like that, and move it down. Scale it. We can even move vertex up. These guys here, I will move them up also. What we can do to slide the vertex into an edge is to press Shift B, and as you can see, they are slided into the edge that is closer to the direction we drag the mouse in, which is really useful because, for example, this vertex, we have a diagonal line here, and it would be really hard to align the movement of that vertex, because here, if we move it into the Z axis, it will go like this. But if we press Shift B, we will be able to adjust the movement to that edge, or to these ones, okay? Which is a really nice tool. So let's go back. Okay, now what I want to do probably is to take this, make it smaller, and take this, make them smaller. And now we can even go ahead and move everything down. Yeah, something like that. Okay, now next thing, I select these 2 guys, I move them up to something like this, and make sure that this is the point where I want the paper to be in. I mean, this part of the tack would be the one that is in the wall. Okay, so I need to make sure there is enough space here, so then in the render we can see the metallic part as well. Okay, not only this part. Right, in the reality, probably to stick the paper well to the wall, we would put this right there in the wall. But in the render, to make it a little more beautiful, we need to see the metallic part as well. So just make sure that, okay. And now I select the metallic part, I press smooth here to smooth the faces. I go and select with Shift and right click the body. And now I press Ctrl P and Object. This way, I can just move around the body and the tip will follow it. But now I want to do just another thing. Go to the front view, and from here, I can just press Ctrl Shift Alt C and select here Origin to 3D Cursor. It's a pretty hard shortcut. You can go for it from here, probably transform, and here you have it, Origin to 3D Cursor, okay? So this way, what we can do is that now, once we stack the tack into the wall, if I rotate the body, it will rotate from the part that is going out from the paper, which is nice because it will be easier to control later. This is like the simpler rig ever, all right? But it will help us a lot when we need to pose this tack into the final image. Okay, so we already have our tack. I'm going to press M and move it to the second layer, all right? Because, well, let's select them, M, and move it to the second layer because now we are going to focus on the paper. So let's save this, and I will come back to continue with the paper. All right, let's very quickly create our postit node. So Shift A, add a plane. Okay, this plane, just scale it up, something like this, and drag it down. The reason why I'm dragging it in the edit mode is that then the origin is at the point where we want the tack, to be put in. So then if we want to just rotate the postit, we can rotate it from the tack as we would do in the reality. Okay. Now I need to deform this, and for that I will apply a couple of subdivisions here. So press W to subdivide, and with this option here you can increase or decrease the amount of subdivisions. Okay, but this would be enough. Now I want to add a subdivision surface. This will smooth the borders. So what I need to do is to, with Ctrl R, apply some divisions right in the corners. Right, put them very close to the corners. Let's go out from the edit mode, and now the next thing we need to do is to just apply some modifiers here to deform this postit, because we don't want this completely straight and rigid postit. Okay, we want something more natural. So just collapse this, and in the add modifier we go for the simple deform again. Right, and this is acting already pretty crazy. So I'm going to bend, because that is what I want to do. And this is bending it in this axis. So what I need to do here is to go to the front view and just create a new empty, right? And I'm going to create it from the top view so it's aligned from the world. So add a plane axis. This will be called deform 01. We're going to delete them as soon as we finish modeling this plane. So I don't care too much about the naming. Origin will be the deform 1. Okay, and now you can see how it bends depending on that point. So we can just do it like this, something like this. This is something more like what I want. And as you can see, if I select this empty, if I rotate it, it will change, or move it, it will change the effect that the deform modifier will have in the object. Right? That is because it's taking this point as the origin for the deformation. Right? So for this one, this is good enough. Now I want another deformation. So I press Shift D, set, oh sorry, I just selected this plane. Okay, just select the plane axis, Shift D to duplicate it, and put it here on the middle. This will be deform 2. Let's go back to the plane and just add a new modifier. This will be simple deform again, and we are starting to getting funny results already. Okay, this one will start from deform 2, and as you can see now we start to get some interesting results. So it's a matter of selecting a few modifiers and stacking them together until we get something similar to what we want. So as you can see now, if I rotate this empty, I get different results. This is something like what I want. Yep, this is it. And I can try to move it to see if I get some more interesting result. Okay, so this will be enough. So I go to the plane again, and now the subsurface modifier should be at the bottom. Right, the subsurface is just to get a smooth surface, all right, because if we deactivate it, I mean, this is not useful for a render. Just make it smooth, okay, but we would be the polygons, we would see the polygons, sorry. So I will just activate this and just go ahead, and before we apply the modifiers, I want to do some quick UVs here, because we are going to need them later to apply the modifier, the materials. So I open here a new image editor, and here as you can see, the real model keep being rigid and straight. So it's really cool to create the unwrapping. Right, it's not perfect, so I'm going to the front view, press U here, and project from view bounce. This way we have it completely covering the whole screen, all right, on the UVs. So we have already our UVs. We can go back and just apply this. So apply this deform modifier and apply this deform modifier. So now this is our posted. I want still to do some little tweaks to it, and is that we are going to have a wall. Let's create the wall already so we can place it on the wall. So this is a plane and I want to make it really, really big. Something like that. And now I just need to delete the plane axis because we are not going to use them anymore. Like that. And now this point there, let's go to the profile. This point should be very close to the wall. And we would need to rotate this a little. So it's not just rotating to the Z axis until it's not collapsing, intersecting with the wall. So as it's intersecting, I need to tweak it a little bit manually. So let's press O, or going back here and activate the proportional editing. And now with G, we can just increase the effect with the scroll wheel, and we can go ahead and just play a little with this. Actually, let's activate this option so we can see the effect of the suture modifier while we are modeling. And I want this corner here to be a little more exaggerated, like that. Right? We could finally achieve this effect with the modifiers, but it would take a little more time, so I prefer to do it this way. Now we have here some curves, so I want to just adjust it a little. When we want an organic shape, it's usually a good idea to model it a little manually. But we got the simple and basic deformations right by just using a few modifiers. So it saved us a lot of time. Okay, so we have got something like that. Okay, this could work as our post-it. Yeah, something like that. So now I will activate the second layer and put our tack there. So as I told you, we already have this into the center. Okay, we can scale it down to fit the size and go RX to rotate it on the X-axis and something like this. But it's really, really big. We can select everything actually and move it up so it's over the grid. So this is our tack, and we need to make it a little smaller. Something like that would be cool. So now we can place the camera already and pose our scene. So let's go ahead, and I want this to be the, yeah, something like this could be a good shot. So let's press Ctrl-Alt-0 to place our camera, and with Shift F and scroll wheel we can just move it back a little so it covers the whole post-it, and move this like this to make the composition a little more interesting. Alright, so the post-it is here, and here we will have some lighting effect. Okay, now we have the camera. We can go ahead, we have the camera here, and we can, if we want, tweak a little more this model so it looks more interesting from the camera perspective. So let's go, let's put this back a little, let's put this back, this could be going to the front a little, something like that. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this. So let's save this. And we have our basic scene. Now, the thing that I need to do is to tweak a little the position of this, the orientation of this tack, so it looks more interesting to the camera also. So I can just drag it like this, rotate it, And with RR, we can rotate it a little freely. So something like this would be nice because it let us see the metallic part, as I told you before. The only problem here is that you can see that point is actually behind the paper. Okay, and the paper is not touching the wall at all. So we could just go ahead and move this back a little until it touches. There we go. And we could even move a little out the tack. So we have the tack. As what I wanted to tell you now with the pivot point is that now we can freely rotate it from that point. And it's much more comfortable than if we try to rotate it from here. As you can see, the pointing with the papers touch the tack is not really that intuitive. So this way is much more easier. So what I can do is to go here to the global, pick a local, and we can drag it in or out, right? So something like this probably. Let's go to the camera. Yeah, something like this. I like it. I like something like this. So I just save it. And now it's time for materials. Since I published the tutorial, the image of the result a few days ago, I got several questions about how I made the effect of the ink in the paper and how it was written and all that. So, well, it's I use a photo. It's that simple. A lot of times using photos or whatever is always more realistic than doing it ourselves, and of course much more easier. So I just drag here. This is I made a real post-it and just made a scan of it. All right, so you can do it very easily. It's very quick. And now just I'm going to apply it to a material there. So first I'm going here at 2 cycles. The same I did for the wall is a wood texture, the same one that I used in the coffee cup. So let's go to the materials. Let's add a new material. This will be posted. All right, let's actually name the objects here. So this plane would be the wall, and this plane would be the post-it, and the cube will be the tack body, and this will be the tack tip. All right, so go back here. And the materials, this is the post-it material. So here in the color, I'm just opening an image, and let's go here, and here I have post-it texture. Now let's go to the wall and let's apply a new material. Let's call it wall, and here I use an image, just drag the boot texture. This is a texture from Shutterstock. I can just go here and use the boot. Okay, and probably I need to add some UVs to that wall. So I go here to material. Okay, and you can see that it's not cool. So I select all the wall, press U, ungrab, and there we have our boot. It's pretty simple. So now if I go here, I can just change the amount of, I press O actually to deactivate the proportional editing, and here by scaling down or up I can increase or decrease the size of the boot. Something like this. I think something like this would be nice, and actually move it like this until we get an interesting point, right? Like something like this, something like this. Okay, I like this because we have this little effect here in this corner. All right, and here we have our post-it, and now just I will add a few very simple materials there. Just drag this because I don't need it anymore. So for the tack body, I will I have already a material, so I will create a tack body mat, and here I want it. What's happening here? Okay, this was probably a material from Blender render. Okay, so here instead of diffuse, I want a glass. Right, later I will tweak a little the materials, but for now, to get started, this will be okay. Increase a little the roughness. And now for the tip, I want again a tack tip. And this would be a glossy, all right, some kind of metal. So let's save this. And now I want to create another plane. And this will be the main light source in our scene. So let's do something like this. Okay, and there we will have a light. So this will be called light. And in the material, I will add an emission. And I just want to go here and apply an emission material. And instead of 1, I will put something crazy like 100. So now I go here to the render, I set it to GPU. I'm going to the sampling and increase the preview samples so I can get a cool result from here. So let's go to the render mode. Okay, so first we have a pretty long shadow there. So I'm just moving this a little bit, something like that. Okay, and also I can just decrease a lot the strength. All right, something like that should be enough. And now actually I have another light in the scene. Let's see where it is. It's probably behind the wall. So let's, oh, this is not light, it's the lamp. So let's move it and just increase a lot the strength to something like 1000 or maybe 20,000. So as you can see, indeed, we have some effect with it out there. So I can just put it to something like this. And for this one, I'm going to apply a little cold color, something like that. And for this one, I'm going to apply a hot color. Okay. Let's go to the camera. And this is what we get. All right. This is probably the shadow cast from the lamp. So I need to go ahead. The same happens here. It's a very rigid shadow. So let's increase this to make it softer. You can see now it's softer. And increase it a little more. That's right. Now I'm going to put the light up and move it in the x-axis. See what is the effect we get. Because I want the shadows to be almost from the top. Okay, so let's just drag this, okay, so we see what happens, but I'm going to work from here. So indeed what was happening is that I was moving it into the local axis. Okay, so I want it to come from, say, something like this probably. So we don't need so much light. Something like this is actually enough. I wanted to just cast a very little shadow, but not too much. All right. And now I want to actually also select the paper, and the paper is not always just a plane, because here we can clearly see that it's just a plane. And actually I'm going to do a little quick tweak, because I don't want this to be curved this way. I want it to be curved the other way around. Let's press O to activate the proportional editing and move it to something like this, and also this one should contribute to that shape, something like that. Okay, that is much better. And now I want to bring this down a little so we can see the world. I don't want this to dominate the world to be, this is the joke, so I don't want it to be really clear. Okay, I want it to be a little occluded or something, because it's just a little detail that is like subliminal or so. And actually I want to go here, go to the UV image editor, select all these guys, select everything, and I can just drag this a little to the bottom. So this is more like this. Okay, what I just did is to move the UVs down. So now the main tutorial and all that is more switched to the upper part. And you can see that here we get this little line. This is probably because we are they're touching the border here. So I can just go ahead, and instead of having this repeating the top part, so we can see here where it starts repeating, I can just select these ones, and as I haven't any text here, I can just drag it up, deactivate the proportional editing, and drag it up, something like that. Nice, because we have some very subtle texture from the paper, but it's not too much. Now the next thing I wanted to do is to just apply another modifier, and let's make it the solidify and put it over the subsurface. All right, now we can increase the thickness. As you can see now, the paper has some thickness, which gives it, is just a very slight touch, but it's much more natural. And also here we get a little line of light that makes it pop a little more. Okay, so that's basically, this is what it's doing. Okay, it's giving it a little thickness to the object. All right. Okay, so next thing we can do is to tweak a little very quickly the materials. So let's go. Let's put this right here, and let's go to the okay, let me arrange this a little bit, something like this, and just leave this view be here in case we need to change something. But here I'm opening a node editor, and actually make this a little smaller, something like that, and press N here to occlude that. Okay, first material I'm gonna tweak will be the boot. Okay, let's save the scene just in case. 5, okay. So we have the boot here. Here, just to make sure it's projected on the UVs, I'm going to go in the input, texture coordinate, and here input the UV, all right, to make sure that this texture is applied on the UVs. Now, what I want to do is to actually use the image texture of the boot as a displacement, a little displacement for this. So let's go ahead and just, I'm gonna just try to drag this directly to the displacement input here. And you can see a little displacement already. So what we probably need to do is to apply some kind of converter math, and for example a power. So with this we can increase or decrease the effect. Okay, you can see here how we can define the power the effect has. Okay, so I don't want something really high. Something like this would be enough. And now what I want to do is to apply a little glossiness to the boot. So let's go here, create a glossy material. Okay, let's plug it in. Not yet. Let's go here to the shader, create a mix shader, drag it right here, and here just drag the shader. So now, as you can see, we have some glossiness in the boot, but I don't want it to be too much. So I will increase this value just to get more diffuse and less glossy. So we have the glossy, we have the diffuse. You can see that the glossiness has 0.2 roughness. We can increase it or decrease it to get more or less lighting effect. All right, I will put it actually on 0.3. Okay, and here I can just keep increasing this to get more diffuse and less glossiness. Let's see how it affects this part, which is where the light is. All right, so I think it's cool. Now, another thing I can do is to move this light a little up, so the reflection here is in the center of the image and not in the bottom. Okay, select this. Okay, I think it's good enough. So now let's go for the post-it. In the post-it, I also want this to be sure that it's projected into the UVs. So just put the UVs there. And now here what I want to do is to also create a glossy material, but I want the glossy material to affect only the letters as the ink, you know? So I'm going to create a shader, glossy. Okay, this glossy instead of white will be some kind of blue, dark blue, like the ink. And let me think what I need to do next. Okay, just mix shader. There we go. As you can see now, it's reflecting a blue color. We want that color to be only in the ink. So what I need to do is to just create here a converter, RGB to black and white. Input this image. So now we have here the same image we are using as a texture. We have it here in black and white. I can go ahead and apply something to this texture here, like a color, invert. So now what I'm doing is that the ink is white and this yellow color is black. I mean, not completely black, but it's some kind of gray. So I need to input here some brightness contrast, for example, and move these guys, something like this. And now I want to apply this, the invert to the bright contrast, and apply this to the factor. And now by increasing the contrast, we should have the effect, the glossiness effect, only in the letters, as you can see right here. And also I can use this as our displacement. So we have some kind of, you know, the shape the pen makes in the paper when we write, but right now it is the opposite. Okay, we need this light to come from the other side. So what I want to do is to apply here, let me check, invert again, so it works in the opposite way. Exactly. And now by tweaking these values here, we can control the amount of glossiness and all that we have. Okay. Let's try with something like this. But here now in the factor, we can just decrease the effect. We can just play with this as long as we want. Something like, for example, a converter, math, not here, power. Let's see how it works. So with this we could probably, there we go, increase or decrease the effect. And maybe by changing the roughness, let me go here, maybe changing the roughness of this color or making it darker, we can get a better result. The thing is that as we rotate the camera around, it gives us the effect. So let's select this postit. Somehow it goes back. Okay, so we put it like this. We can see how the ink reflects the light. Let's try to increase or decrease this value. Oh no, not this value, not this value. I want to decrease the, this is the wall, I need to post it. Let's increase or decrease the amount of roughness. Okay, this looks a little better. Yeah. Okay, this looks better to me. It's a very subtle effect, but it's there. So it will keep adding life to our scene. And finally, I will select the tack and just mix this glass with diffuse. Let's go here, diffuse shader. I go here, Control C over the color to copy it and Control V here to paste it. And I want to mix like this, add the diffuse here. So we can, we don't have here, so I can increase or decrease the roughness here of this glass. And here we can change the factor to be more glassy or more diffuse. Okay, because I don't want it to be completely glass. This could work. Okay, now if you notice here, we have some white spots. This is because here we are accumulating a lot of stuff from the brightness from the light, the reflections of the metal part of the tack. Here we have also the caustics probably of the tack body. So what I need to do is to go here to the render panel, and I can just go increasing the clamp, and the clamp will limit the amount of brightness that a pixel can have. Okay, so we need to increase it until we get a clear image with bright colors, but not too much. So as soon as we start seeing here completely white points, we should stop increasing this value. But we shouldn't keep it very low, because if we keep it very low, it will be like a very dark scene, even if it's not really so dark. So here I think I'm pretty happy with the result. So let's go to the camera. Let's see what we have. And yeah, it looks pretty good to me. So from here, you could start adding more effects. Well, actually, this part here should be brighter. Let's tweak it a little bit more. Right, until we get it brighter. Something like 2, for example. So this is bright, but here we have some control over this. So here we are not getting white spots. Let's increase it even more. Okay, we are getting some little white spots, but they are very subtle, not problem. So as you can see, the clamp is very useful for preventing fireflies and stuff like that, but it also prevents shininess in our scene. It gets it darker, so we need to be very careful with that value. And now finally, I'm just going to, what's happening here? Okay. Okay, and just go to the camera, select the camera here. Let's go to the camera, and here the focus would be the postit. And let's increase the size so we can get some slightly depth of field. and a little more. Okay, and this is now you can play with it as long as you want. So basically, let's go here and increase a lot the preview render, so it keeps rendering while I speak. So yeah, from here you already have the scene, you already have the boot, the wall, the tack and everything. So from here you could just keep playing with it and maybe add some effects and color correction in the compositor to make it pop a little more. And with that, our postit scene is already finished. So I hope you learned a lot from this tutorial. It was just a simple exercise of modeling with deformations of modifiers and quick materials and rendering, because, well, there is actually some little complex materials going on here, but well, not too much. So yeah, I hope you liked it, and see you on the next tutorial. Bye. Happy blending. I forgot the happy blending. Bye.